The sound of motorcycles rumbled through the quiet afternoon. A deep, thunderous echo rolling across the small town street. The sun blazed bright above the chrome and leather of the Hells Angels as they pulled up outside Rosie's Diner, a place that usually smelled of pancakes and coffee, not fear. But today, something different hung in the air. A tiny figure stood at the edge of the diner's parking lot, a trembling little girl, barefoot and crying, her dress torn and her face stray with tears. When the bike stopped and the engines died, the silence that followed was almost deafening. That was when she ran forward, her small arms wrapping around the arm of the man leading the group, the biker known as Reed Bear Lawson. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and standing up for what's right, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Together, we can keep spreading stories that restore faith in humanity. Bear looked down in shock as the little girl clung to him, her tiny voice trembling as she said, "Uncle hit Mommy." For a moment, the tough biker froze. He'd seen a lot in his life, fights, loss, broken roads, but nothing hit harder than the sight of a child afraid. The men behind him grew silent, their usual easy grins fading into grim lines. Bear knelt, his weathered hand resting gently on her shoulder. She couldn't have been more than 7. Her name, he later learned, was Sophie. Her words came out in fragments. Her mother had been hurt, dragged inside the diner by her uncle after she tried to stop him from taking her late father's truck. Inside, through the wide glass windows of Rosie's Diner, the bikers could see a man in a plaid shirt shouting, his face red, his hands slamming the counter. A woman, thin, pale, terrified, sat in the corner near the window, holding her cheek and staring down at the floor. That was Sophie's mother, Claire. Bear felt his jaw tighten. He'd been a father once before life and bad luck tore everything away. Seeing Sophie shaking there, helpless and scared, stirred something inside him that had been asleep for years. He stood slowly, his eyes burning with resolve. "Stay here, sweetheart," he murmured, his voice steady but thick. The bell above the diner door jingled as Bear pushed it open, followed by 3 of his brothers, Duke, Mason, and Rex. The entire diner seemed to hold its breath. The man in the plaid shirt turned, scoffing. "What's this? A leather parade?" he spat, his voice thick with arrogance. He didn't notice Sophie's tear-streaked face pressed to the window outside. Bear said nothing at first. He simply walked over, his boots echoing on the tiled floor, his presence heavy and calm, the kind of calm that came before a storm. "You laid a hand on that woman?" Bear finally asked, his tone low and even. The men laughed, the sound cruel. "She's family, ain't your business." But to Bear, that was enough. In his world, hurting a woman, especially in front of a child, crossed a line no man could return from. The bikers didn't need to raise their voices. They didn't need weapons. They simply made it clear that the kind of justice Sophie's uncle believed he could escape had already arrived on 2 wheels and wrapped in leather. The next 5 minutes felt like something out of a movie, but every second was real. The man's bravado crumbled when he found himself cornered by the 3 bikers, each one steady and unflinching. Mason took his phone and dialed the sheriff, who was an old friend of Bear's. Claire was escorted out safely, tears streaming down her face, clutching Sophie in her arms. Bear stood nearby, watching them reunite, a mother and daughter wrapped in trembling relief. The sheriff arrived within minutes, and Sophie's uncle, now pale and silent, was led away in handcuffs. Justice, swift, lawful, and absolute, was done. But what lingered wasn't justice. It was compassion. Bear helped Claire and Sophie sit on the curb outside the diner, handing Sophie a small stuffed teddy bear that hung from his bike's handle. "You keep this," he said softly. "He's been through a lot of roads, and now he's yours." Sophie hugged it tightly, smiling for the first time that day. Claire looked at Bear, her voice shaking as she whispered, "I don't know how to thank you." He shook his head. "You don't need to. Just stay safe. Take care of her. That's enough." The other bikers stood around quietly, not out of pride, but respect. People often saw them as rough, intimidating, but in moments like this, they were something else entirely. They were protectors. They were men who carried the weight of the world on engines of steel, trying to do one small good thing at a time. Before leaving, Bear looked back one last time. Sophie waved from her mother's arms, clutching the teddy bear, her smile shy, but real. The reflection of the bikes gleamed across the diner's chrome walls as the engine started again, their deep hum fading into the distance. Claire stood there long after they were gone, her hand resting on Sophie's shoulder, whispering a quiet prayer of thanks. As the road stretched ahead, Bear's mind wandered. He thought about his own daughter, long grown now, far away, and about all the ways life breaks people, but also the ways it lets strangers step in and make a difference. Maybe that was the road's real purpose, he thought. Not just to take you places, but to lead you back to what matters most. The wind rushed past him, the town disappearing behind them, replaced by open sky. But somewhere in that small town, a mother and daughter slept safe that night because a group of bikers chose compassion over chaos. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps us spread hope, humanity, and stories that prove good people still exist. Before you go, tell us in the comments, what does kindness mean to you? And as the engines faded into the horizon, the message of that day lingered in the air. Sometimes angels don't have wings. Sometimes they ride Harleys.